Minutes sent out Friday, I guess, I was at the time. So, a motion to accept the minutes as produced.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, approve the minutes. Nice all around, but Janet's abstained.
And well, I don't know.
And in addition to the minutes, I'd like to submit that the September 7th outreach and the 19 towns, 19 stories email from Michael serve as their written report as it was sent to a forum. It should serve as part of the record, and we will attach it to tonight's minutes. The good news is Rob is up first.
Okay, good evening. So just kind of bringing us back to where we started, you provided us a concept sketch plan May or so last year, this past year, May. We put it on a scale drawing. You had your meeting in June. Got us back some comments. Apologize for the delay, but summer is quite busy. So we finally revised some plans. I don't know if Max shared the email and the plans with everybody. Okay, but I brought full-size plans. If you want me to put them on the table, I can do that.
Oh, wow.
Yes, please do.
So we tried to address your concern. Put a good place to that side. That's the existing conditions plan. So we prepared, and I ended up doing two options just to give us something else to talk about, which it wasn't a major change, but a little bit. So going by memory, and people can correct me or ask me questions as you'd like to. We were told to get rid of the solar arrays on the ground over here. We left them on the pavilion, enlarged the pavilion to be 32 by 64. We reoriented the tennis courts and pickleball north-south. Here's our north arrow. And we combined them into multi-purpose courts where you have 2 tennis courts or 4 pickleball courts. Let's see. There was some question on some slopes. I'm giving you a couple ideas of what the slope might look like. It's important to remember this is a concept master plan level, so we don't have those level of details. Once the committee accepts a site plan, master plan, and you give us a direction as to where you want to start phases or the whole thing, we can start doing grading plans and full designs. But at this point, we don't want to get bogged into details and then make changes. It's a lot of waste of energy and money. Let's see. So I put over here, it's roughly, and that could be a 9% slope if you went from the parking lot grade to the top of the foundation. Over here, it's steeper, it could be more like 20%. And merely I took this elevation to what the ground is now, just to give you some idea. 20% is pretty steep. That's 1 foot and 5 feet. You can just envision that. 9% is not that steep. The accessible wheelchair ramp is 8.33%. So think of a ramp. About what that would be. Let's see. We already had bike rack shown. We showed potential sidewalk coming down Friendship Street to the side to extend where it ends now in this viewport. We did move our grass area back. There was a comment about contours 104 to 11. I believe it was meant to be this area. We have some existing drainage over there, so we'll have to really leave that in place. So we kind of pulled back what would be developed as lawn area potentially. Got my list here. I don't know if there was anything else that we changed. Solar arrays. There was a question about the size of the pavilion. I think that's a pretty good starting point for a pavilion. I've seen smaller. We're working with the town of Bowdoin. They're doing a waterfront redevelopment. They're looking at potentially a 40 by 80, so actually a little bigger. So I think you're in the good area, at least at this level.
Yeah, that. Based so far on our responses from our survey, the pavilion is a really good part of it.
They're pretty popular in these type of, because obviously you get you out of the weather, and, you can have different functions there. There was a question about the rubble around the foundation. It's basically just the concrete rubble that could be removed or incorporated into any of these
The
gradings.
GEP would say keep it on site and bury it.
But it's not in the ground, so.
Right, no, but
in
you
the-
could,
This stuff, that's
Right.
right here.
Yeah. Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
can go away.
It depends what we do here. You know, this picnic area is at grade, so that would want, I believe, in my interpretation of reading what the DEP restrictions are, it's excavation in the ground. This material, I think, has just been piled there when they demoed the
Surface.
building, so
It may very well even be sitting on asphalt.
I bet it is,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's all concrete. This whole thing's a concrete pad.
That one.
That's all.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
And
Well,
debris over here. what
It's
about
kind of
this?
all around this whole side.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, they had said you could cover it.
That debris.
Well, that's not covered. We want to remove it to use this slab.
there is a slope there now, that's where that debris is, exactly. So I'm pretty sure that we'll find a hard surface under that. I
Yeah.
don't think it's, you know, what they don't want is to have site disturbance where we start unearthing any problems from the site, obviously. Talked about the tennis courts and pickleball courts. There was kind of some detailed questions on fencing and gates, how we're gonna do that. That's again, kind of, it's a detail. But whatever we do is gonna have to be surface mounted because of the whole excavation issue.
Ask you where the debris is that was pushed back between woods and site, is that? I don't know if that's on this or not.
I don't think it's on there.
I don't
Oh,
think
it's
so.
over.
It's beyond what we
Beyond.
surveyed, yeah.
Right up there, just.
There was a question about the play, if I had any other thoughts or ideas, and I been discussed a little bit about having the playground on top of the concrete surface. Obviously, you need some wood chips with playgrounds to be safe, but over time, I'd be concerned that it could get eroded and worn off, and you have a hard surface under those wood chips that's not very well protected anymore. So because of that, I decided, well, since we don't have the solar arrays over here, perhaps we could look at putting a playground over there. And also, this is fairly tight up here. That would enable you to kind of move things around a little bit. So I looked at potentially putting your playground over there near your pavilion. Again, could be anywhere, and this could be anywhere.
So since some of these things would have to be, so this was our former line of,
That's the edge of pavement now.
right, and it was also in the, Max, your original thing about the, area of non-disturbance. So we can do that, we can remove that asphalt in order to change it to grass.
As far as my understanding, yes.
Remove
And we
the
can also,
I don't think we can.
You don't think they'll allow you to peel the asphalt off unless we don't
Not sure
excavate?
about that.
You'd have to dig into that,
We
no
can-
pun intended, but.
We
We
could
can
have,
ask.
whatever is decided, we'd send it off to DEP for one day formal review.
so, because. and
We had
also
said no
gonna have-
discarification.
We're also gonna have pilings, things to attach the playground, to. So this is area here, what can we do in here is the question.
Well, that'd be a question we want to confirm with the DEP.
Right, and even, a corner of a building, where this goes.
Right.
But how precious is that line, the end of this, right?
Well, it depends if the DEP allows us to merely peel the pavement off and not get into the earth, then you're back to earth. And gives you some flexibility.
And the other thing is getting power to this building, can we charge?
No.
To get power and water.
That, no excavation.
Well, from how I saw the covenants, if it's outside the restricted area, which
That.
the restricted area is maybe here diagonally, so if we were to go along the property line right here. We'd have to do soil testing, but it's just an idea we can pitch to DEP. And it is within the restrictions of the covenant, so do it.
You mean between the property line and the.
No, we-
asphalt?
It could be the asphalt, it could be
Yeah, I
along the
mean-
property line, but again,
I
it's
don't think
something.
Rob's even had a chance to talk to the DEP because they don't want to talk to us till we have something.
Oh,
Yeah, I think we're getting to that next step now.
Yeah.
So that again has to be determined.
This is a slope here, right?
No,
Contours.
it's fairly pretty flat.
Okay.
If for some reason you can't peel back the asphalt, then could we consider grant committee, grant night over this section so you could actually have.
Yeah, and when I say this fairly flat, there is some contours there, so there is a grade. But
I was
that's,
thinking
but
of
that's
steep.
all part of the paved parking lot, so it's
Okay.
relative.
I don't think they have a problem with us adding, it's just traffic.
Correct. That's the details we have to get to is that exactly what they will.
But wouldn't we need to run the drainage sheet, the sheet draining like this and draining like this, wouldn't we need to capture? Wouldn't we just be washing this away if we added soil?
That's all in the next level of design. We're not at that level. We need to get a footprint honed in on, determine with the DEP what we can do, what we can't do, and then we need to develop a design, which that'll come. You know, we need to do a full grading plan, how everything's gonna fit together.
So this surface, what happens to the top of it? I mean, what, does it depend on the court or? I mean,
Depends what we're doing and what you want to do. It's a concrete surface, it could remain as such.
But it's
You could-
getting broken up.
Yeah, you could
so-
put a skim coat of concrete on it, you could put asphalt over it. I mean, the courts would be asphalt, so you'd be paving,
So-
building them up.
And all the fencing, we assume we're gonna like do the scutcheon kind of things with.
Like a plate with bolted in surface mount. So you're merely
And
bolting.
there are other options too, because you can face mount, chain link fence on all the exposed foundations,
Right, you can
where
do
they're
that
4
too.
feet tall, you've got 4 feet of bonding.
So again, details we'll get to, but we don't want to get too hung up in that until we really get our plan worked out, I think. Because, you know, for us to spend a lot of time getting into the details and then we say, okay, now we want to move this and that, you gotta waste time and money. So this option, the main thing was the playground was moved. This remained more or less the same. I moved the basketball court over here just to give you another idea.
Yeah, that was a space we struggled to figure out what to do there, is where you.
And you can see that fits pretty nicely. And then that opens up some other space and we just kind of put your seating in a couple spots.
I think near the road kind of makes sense.
Well, the basketball court will be the front door. If you come in, you'll see basketball 10 foot tall. I mean, I guess everything is 10 foot tall. Fences around it. And you have the pickleball being supposed to the road.
I think it should
Me?
be, me
Yeah,
personally, I
He
think,
doesn't like the
because
noise.
I'm just concerned about the further away from houses would be the best,
I've-
because,
Remember seeing something recently in the news, I think
Yep.
it's down in New York.
yep.
Where they have it in
And
people's
they're not gonna play with
backyards.
soft paddle.
Yeah,
Well, for what it's worth, it's hard to attenuate sound just with just distance.
Right.
You know,
Plus the
very
road is noisy, so in some ways having it.
Yeah, but it's not a
Uh,
pating, pating, pating,
Yeah, yeah.
pating.
right.
What about the trees that are there now, or could we,
We're chaining ourselves to the trees so no one cuts them down.
No, I know
We
that,
love
but-
those trees.
for a sound barrier,
I mean, you could
You
make,
could do
make a
some-
more dense vegetated
Right.
buffer,
Yeah.
which I think.
arborvitae's or whatever? You know,
So that,
Yeah, it gets dense.
so as far as moving forward, there's gonna be some courts somewhere, and does it make a huge difference of going to the main DEP, what sports are happening on this
I
path?
don't think so. It's gonna be what the disruption is gonna be and what we're allowed to do and what they have to approve it. So we've already identified 2 areas. Can we really take this pavement out? And how can we get power here? Does it have to be overhead? I mean, in that inherently, that's a problem. You still need a power pole, so that has to go in the ground.
Hmm.
At least one for that distance, probably 2.
And so in that case, we don't have to make any major decisions about what sports are happening on the pad. My critique of looking at this is like there's a lot of empty space.
I know,
around
to have it
sports.
just be pavement is-
And like what do you do with all that space and even getting to this in the winter time, skating, you have to, you know, it's a lot of,
Yeah, and that could be moved. I didn't move
Yeah.
that, but that could obviously go over here.
and if it wasn't perfectly north-south, this could slide over this way. Right? Get it away from the road is.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be a significant difference sound wise,
I mean, well,
but you could take that whole rectangle and slide it this way a little bit.
I think we need something to go to the DEP with, just to say, hey, are we on the right track here?
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, people are giving us more feedback on what elements they'd like to see at the park. We've got 60 responses, and if we put this on the back of the tax bill, hopefully more people will scan and fill out the survey about what they want to see there.
So one other concern I have about this whole thing is this funny little It's actually not that little, but it's 4 feet up. We don't really have a program for it, so,
It's staying out there in no man's land right now.
so with 4 feet up, like people roaming around playing on it and falling, are we gonna have to fence that off? Into your
Or cover it up.
understanding? Well, that would be a lot of film to cover that up.
Well, we have a lot of fill.
Yeah, I mean,
Might have a lot. of questions, yeah.
No, I meant we have our own fill. We have our own pit.
Oh, okay.
There
The balls.
there are some tough stuff that we have to, I would assume, be accessible nearby, so if we were to fill with this kind of bank, so that's a slope up to it, so there's no falling off.
yeah,
we're
you
just gonna,
potentially could do that. You know, there's an old pump station that sits here that
Right.
really is gonna need to be excavated if we're gonna have a driveway back through there. So that would have to go. So those would be some of the questions we would want to ask the DEP.
you couldn't fill on this side, so you'd need a partial fence and then some weird fill on the 3 other sides to, and then maybe.
Yep.
Plant it with some stuff, but it's just an odd.
Maybe that's where a raised garden
well,
Or
one here.
contemplation,
is.
space.
Or public art space.
Yeah, the old industrial space part.
Yeah, I think at least making it safe would be.
Yeah.
Important. I'd go from there.
And you cover it with a, over cover it with a sail shade or some other facility. And remote picnicking to get away from something in nowhere is not a bad idea. But we better put it to use, eventually put a use on it then.
Also note its location is actually at the center of the whole thing as a pivot, because this is only half of the park. The other half being in the green and wooded areas, and that raised platform is where we're planning the trails to begin. So in some ways, it's a transitional space between the recreation out front and the recreation in the back. So I wonder if we could use that productively in its overall experience, moving from one area to the next.
So there's things that we can develop over time, and
Yeah.
then there's things that we need to make safe, and, you know. When we're like open kind of thing, you know, especially open, but we know we're budgeted for that, so it's kind of just. Reasonable.
How hard would it be to incorporate? Because one of the things that we're getting a lot of feedback on is a water play feature.
About that one. That's my special area of expertise is water play in particular. And I have many examples I could share with all of you.
And there's all this extra space.
It's just a majority of the people were like, at least from, I'm assuming these are people who have kids. Is a water play area on that site would be, but we have no water play. Other than like water play where you can keep them in an area, not like we have a river, but.
Or tied in with the ice rink somehow. I'm just curious for feedback on your, maybe that's coming later in the agenda, but when you were talking to the Miller families and some just general feedback. I mean, my personally, I feel like you don't want this to look like just a big concrete space with chain link fences around courts. You know, it has to be inviting somehow, and how I'd personally like to see the least amount of pavement that allows the recreation, you know, because you've got all the parking too, and I don't know if people just want to think about that.
So walking trails are the top 5, walking trails, picnic area, playgrounds, restrooms, believe it or not. And then fitness stations, as far as what types of recreational activities and infrastructure would you like to see in the park? What type of play area would you prefer for children in the park? So 50%, well, nature play area at 62%, adventure playground 50%. Splash pad 38%. What amenities would you like to see in the children's play area? Climbing structures and swings were the 2 number ones, followed by seating for adults and a water play feature. what types of sports facilities? Basketball courts were number one, tennis, pickleball courts number two, tennis courts number three, volleyball courts were number four. They said it was extremely or very important to have shaded areas in the court section of the park. And 86% feel there should be a pavilion. And the pavilion would serve, the top four answers were event space, picnic area, performance stage, and a shelter. And then what types of other activities, and we gave some, like, there was a list and people can answer other ones. Farmers market and craft market, 82%. The next one was community festivals. Then a nature discovery area, and the next one was a butterfly garden. Community bonfire pit, outdoor amphitheater, kite flying space, and fitness classes.
How many,
So far, I've only got 59 respondents.
okay,
But bicycle paths that go through the woods and around the field for children to have a safe space. Outdoor movie theater.
Those are farther down on the list.
And a kid came up to us, and this really struck me, I think it struck Michael, is here's this 10, 11-year-old kid who's like, we need an RC remote control area there for our trucks and remote control cars to have a space where they can do jumps and fun things, because they have to go all the way to Bangor to do that. It's the only other place to do it in.
Is it an indoor place or?
No, it's outdoor. It would be outdoor. It's all electric, little electric cars. Somebody else said go-kart track,
So
so.
that's something you could put on the concrete, elsewhere, build up
Absolutely.
and sit on the concrete.
All this extra space here.
Yeah.
But hearing all this list, I wonder if our next step is to think about, what, if any of these items actually demand a certain level of infrastructure, engineering infrastructure, versus things that can be just sort of substituted in and out later on in the design. So for example, a water feature, where is the water coming from? And also that would be one, is can we think about each of these in terms of if there's an engineering infrastructure that's needed? And then, two, if there's, a lot of interest in larger community events, around the pavilion, that might be a clue that we don't want to put playground stuff right on top of the pavilion,
Great place for farmers market.
because it would allow, open space there would allow for flexibility in larger community events. But that's what I would take from that list in terms of our conversation now.
And if we were to do, so, okay, you've answered the question about like 10-foot fences and how those might get attached to the slab. Could we, would you also be able to, create shade structures on top of the slab? Like I was thinking actually on top of this area that would be shaded.
I would think you could come up with some type of canopy systems.
Yeah,
Planting trees, do
So
we
is
know if that's even?
I don't think trees would shade the area that was mentioned and what she was talking about.
No, but just even allowed on that structure, or do they all have to be around it?
you mean outside the slab,
Yeah.
around the
Like-
perimeter?
I think we can do that.
Yeah, can we dig holes to plant a tree or?
Have to find out.
That would still be, that's the excavated.
But wouldn't that be the bill we're bringing in?
Oh, potentially,
Be elevated above.
Yeah, I don't, as long as we're not disturbing that,
the concrete.
yeah.
And it does get an
Just turning
intermittent
what?
water supply for irrigation off the
Okay.
slab. Slab's gonna shed all that water. So I would like to hope, who knows, that some of these slopes around it are vegetated or taking advantage opportunistically of the sheet flow off the slab from rainwater. It's not gonna be so difficult to irrigate. Maybe.
Right, the more landscaping you have, you do need to think about irrigation and watering.
Yeah, I think the question is the landscape, if we're completely trying to build the. Trees are growing in through all the cracks anyway, so I'm just. It's allowed them to keep going. But what's actually.
There's nothing there that's gonna be sustainable. They'll be dying on it over time.
Once we cover it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We're gonna have to do it ourselves.
I mean, I'm sure there's some great engineering thing where we could collect rainwater for our.
Right.
There is,
Right.
you could definitely capture from that surface area.
So play water features kind of thing. Usually it's like recycled water and stuff like that, so it seems that it would lend itself to doing something interesting on the slab, so it wouldn't necessarily have to be part of. So water, it's either gonna be near our intake for the water or the hostess house or something. I think you want it to be out in the natural area, but for playing water, does that make sense that it's part of the, I mean, I think of that as kind of an urban thing to do, to make sprays and things.
Yeah,
Can be done, do you see it being in a part of the slab?
well, I see it as
All the
part of the
internet.
whole design, but I think it could go in a couple of different places.
Yeah.
And ideally, you actually do want a slope.
Mm.
Um,
Well, we've got
those are
two
more,
we
the
get
more
two levels.
engaging water play features is that then they can be built
Mhm.
into a slope and then also have a big sand area next to it. So I actually just saw one in Colorado, it was a big boulder that the water feature, the kids could, 6 feet away, they could step on something and the water would come up over here. So it's really fun, cause and effect, but then there's a lot of social skills and communication that has to happen, because whoever's playing here and needs water has got to be talking to the person over here who's stepping on it. So it's not, that's just one of the features, but it was in the middle of a giant sand pit.
Mm.
So, and it was the most popular feature. In addition to the step down, there was another water feature. I have pictures and videos I could show you, but the people that were there were just so engaged. It was just such a happy place.
Features like that still incorporate the recycling of the filtering and recycling of the water.
Water.
I believe so, yes. And it's a public space, for, families to safely engage with water, but water play is one of, it's just like what we all gravitate to.
Mm.
Our children gravitate to water
The sound.
and also just any like rocks and water and sand. It's just like kids are very happy there. Then parents are very happy too because the kids are so engaged.
And was the
And
shade
everything.
provided?
Lots of shade,
By trees or by?
both. There was both. But the idea too with you mentioned sound buffer, but the biodiversity, as much biodiversity that can happen in all places, it's going to help mitigate effects of a changing warming climate. And keeping it cooler. Natural surfaces are cooler than rubberized surfaces. And correct me if that's what I know from landscape architects that I've worked with and studies that I've seen. So a rubberized playground, there are studies that test the temperature of that versus different, more naturalized playgrounds. And they radiate heat. So kids can't play out there as much because they're just so hot. It's rubber and metal. So as much biodiversity and plant life and even mobile planters that planting trees in fill, but also getting a lot of buffers and perimeter planters that I'm sure you're very familiar with.
Rob, nothing prevents us from on that icky ugly slab, trying to make it more natural.
No.
So like if
We
we
can add-
wanted
we can add
sand
to it.
around a water feature, that could be incorporated on that slab.
I think the most difficult challenge on the slab, if you're trying to grow landscape tree, you're not gonna have trees, or you could probably do some mounds with some shrubs, but you're not gonna grow trees up there. So that's not gonna help you with your shade.
With the recycled water and the sand, did they have any filtration issues? I know I talked to Fresh Style, they put in a splash pad in
That's not our.
2016,
guy who left.
and they wish they expanded their cement area
I think it belonged
a lot more
to
because they were having so much trouble with the walls right there.
Our guy from our
Dirt and
previous
stuff getting
meeting.
in their
Oh.
system,
Bubba?
causing
Yeah.
maintenance issues.
Right.
Hearing that the sand was so close, so I'm intrigued.
Oh, yeah. I would love the opportunity to show you photos that I have at some point, just because I think the photos explain a lot of what I'm trying to describe, but yeah. Yeah, and the water feature in the sand area was just a single boulder with a tiny bit of water. And then separately was a step down water feature where kids were splashing and playing.
Rob, do you feel confident with the plan that you have to have an initial conversation? Obviously, do you feel confident that you could have a good conversation with DEP with that plan?
I think so, to give us a little more direction. We have questions right now, so if we can get some answered.
Can we,
One thing on the water, and I'm not an expert in those by any means, but just knowing that even trying to keep a bird bath from turning all green and nasty, there's gotta be some type of a chemical treatment filtration process.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, the only wet spots I've seen in New York City and Boston and South Carolina, and we never built them. Engineering very intensive projects because of the recycling and the filtering and
Right.
the water
Just like having a
volume.
pool.
Yeah,
Right,
spread out in a location like this, it's a real engineering challenge.
exactly. So
So we're gonna have to think in value engineering.
that's
and
gonna be
find ways to
upfront
accomplish-
costs
Yeah.
and long-term maintenance. You have to just be ready to buy into it. That's all.
But a great objective.
When I did talk to Presque Isle, they said they had two options for the filtration systems and the pumps they had going on. There was an underground one, which is 100% off the table for us. But they actually went with an above ground one, so there's like a little shed building that houses their whole system, so it's all above ground, and then just the pipes that run under.
Well, we actually may have opportunities to conceal infrastructure, given the fact that we have these elevations.
Yeah.
You can hide infrastructure off the edge of the slab, pumping it back up. So I mean, there are no terrific obstacles here, I don't think. It's just gonna be engineering and figure out.
Trying to get the water supply to that location is,
There's town water
Right,
there.
it's true.
right, but we have to figure out where it's coming and where we can dig and where we can't.
Bob?
Yeah, I was just thinking of the next step and having a conversation with DEP. I mean, this could be a basis, and then we have a lot of additional information that we could put by them and say, this is the basis, but these are the additional things we're looking at. Do you have any problem with any of this?
So we need
And that
to
would
list-
give us enough direction to,
Like,
hey, there's a red flag, you
That's right.
can't do that.
we wanna,
But we at
Flush
least have
those
the
out
green
now.
light for certain things.
So as long as we have flexibility later for, moving these pieces around, because, even if we did slide this back, then we can think about other things that we might want to do there.
yeah, this is, again, this is a concept master plan level, so you're not saying today, all right, this is all we're gonna do forever, As you get more community feedback, you may get some other ideas.
What are our key questions, like peeling back pavement is one.
Peeling back pavement, the excavation to get underground power or water, those would be some of my questions.
But even doing these ramp systems up to the level and adding stairs, we need pilings or something to support
Yes, we're just
to
creating.
any kind of perforation into, to create these stairs going up or to create this ramp. We need a footing or something, don't we?
It all depends what we build.
And can we ask them, or maybe you already have, I'm still feeling like maybe there's a way, like if you're removing some rubble. There's not hard surface to plant vegetation. I just wonder if that could be a question for them.
Even along the front here would be great to continue, because there's
Yeah.
really nothing to speak of. This is the kind of, Carl, what's in front here? Is that kind of ratty or is that really nothing at this point?
Kind of a nice arborvitae,
This is an arborvitae?
it's kind of a nice yew hedge. And
That's the
They
yew?
cleaned it up
No,
recently.
isn't that along the road?
Yeah, right up here. And there's a little new bird.
Along the slab?
No, it's along the road.
Along the road.
Yeah, so I'm talking here.
Show up
This is
better on this survey plan.
Can we,
Sorry.
there's already bed there, so my question is, can we plant new stuff there?
I guess that would be a question for DEP.
I think it is where you're going to put it, like where I was pointing for the sewer and water along the park, or no,
Right.
along the parking and the neighbor's property line to the north. Probably fine. I think once we get past where that playground is in item B, I think once we get past that playground, it's gonna be a bit difficult, because that's where they are restricted zones.
And what about like this asphalt parking? I was just thinking about the shade aspect of a playground.
I think that's still restricted.
Okay, so anything that's paved now, you can probably.
From here onwards is restricted.
What I can do is I can find those older plans and put some of those lines on our plan.
Yeah, where that was.
So if we want to make the row of red maples along there more thicker, more lush for sound and whatnot, we can plant up along there.
I think that was fine, outside the restricted area.
But I think you can just ask that question.
Yeah. How precise, do you know, how precise is that line for the restricted area? You know,
that was put on the LiDAR. I think it's
Yeah.
pretty,
Yeah.
pretty precise.
there you go. Okay.
Well,
We have a pretty impressive little piece, maybe over 30 feet from the center line of those maples up front, the copper maples. And I have 30 feet down the slope. It could be vegetated for density and opacity and sound
Make it
buffering,
pretty.
maybe, you know.
aesthetics. But back to the planning, I guess I just feel like in reading the covenant, they say you cannot disturb the cap without DEP's approval.
Right.
So again, I feel like it's not, it doesn't say you can't plant
Right.
any
You just
vegetation.
need their approval.
So that's why I'm feeling like that should be a question. Could some of this be whatever you need to do to allow trees to grow or whatever for shade? Is that an option?
Right.
So I feel like that's a question we should just put out there, if they would give permission for that, because I don't see how that's gonna increase the contaminants.
No.
I think their
That's
concern
the-
was more about just digging.
Right.
think that
it's
was it.
digging,
And then what are you
but-
gonna do with that material you dig out? That'd
So
be
They
their
would have to
concern.
stay on site.
Right, I mean, that would be their concern. though.
Right, so but just to raise that as a question, if we wanted to create shade for whatever things are.
Yeah, we might get lucky and discover they think many of these things we're talking about are de minimis and just not really gonna change the permeability of the site. We might get lucky,
Yeah,
but you
maybe.
gotta ask.
I just
But if
feel
we
like-
take one plan and say, this is our conceptual plan, and he shows up, it's one meeting, we get the questions answered.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah.
It's the furthest we've gotten.
I think it's
Yeah.
great, just asking that question, can we disturb that path or the pavement?
And I
So
think,
the western side, as far as trees being affected, since that's south, I mean. You know, we've got, okay, maybe some, they're not really gonna do anything for that. This is morning sun, we've already got big trees there. We've got, you know, we're not gonna have trees close to this.
It's gonna be shade structures of some sort.
It would just be
It's
west.
outside in the west that are going to create the heat.
Yeah, but we can't do anything about the south, but we can affect the west. Sun on these surfaces.
You know, okay, canopy trees and running in 4 feet of fill, 3 feet of fill. We're gonna be designing some shade structures for sure, but part of the process, we'll figure it out.
I think that we're looking at one very small portion of the site, and I know it's gonna have fences and it's gonna look a very plain land, but. I mean, if you're going to courts, they are kind of plain. And they are sunny, so. I mean, I think
They're not playing if people are using them, though. They're filled up with activity.
they're gonna be filled up with happiness and light, and that was the one thing we got from. Meeting with people and actually having the ability to talk to people about this project was. And Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, if I say anything that you don't agree with. People were excited.
Oh, yeah, their faces lit up
Mhm.
when we said,
Yeah.
this is a new recreation space and park in town. Oh, yeah, oh, I heard about that. And we want your thoughts and we want to know what you want. Oh, really? I'm serious. That's how
Yeah.
people respond. Really? I said, yeah, just scan this QR code and take the survey and, oh,
And obviously
Okay.
people did.
all right, I'll do that.
It was fun to watch them come in. And naming the park and the whole thing. And a really, one of my favorite experiences, to be honest with you. Positive feedback.
We could tell by the smiles on your faces when they took
I
the
know,
picture.
the table.
You guys were in seventh heaven.
Well, it was just,
It was nice to see.
people were very appreciative of putting them in their space. They don't have time.
Right.
Come here.
So Carl, can I just ask you, you've been concerned about the drainage here, if expanding the lawn here and dealing with the drainage.
Well, he's gonna run a technical release, figure out the catchments and determine what he has to do with it. So I mean,
Further down the road.
Okay,
yeah, we chatted about that.
And-
You run a technical release, you find the catchments and you send it
The
with.
plan would be to primarily have sheet flow lights out there now.
Yeah.
Primarily, right?
and should we, because we've talked about this being possibly a stage, and place for music, place for farmers markets. I'm gonna say that playground here is not, it's not a great idea.
Needs to be reconfigured so that you've got a space where people could look down and not.
I think we need to put a
interrupted by-
playground in there just for him to have the conversation with DEP.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
but maybe push it to the side of the,
Or could it be?
yeah,
On the pavement?
There's
Yeah.
substantial space,
Yeah.
there's substantial space there.
Yeah.
It really is, there's plenty to spread it out.
It's either wood chips on this or it's wood chips on this, I mean.
I'd rather have wood chips on the ground. Than wood chips on concrete.
But those two seem to conflict.
Yeah, but I think there's like, I don't
Or maybe-
know what the scale is, but that, I mean, based on 40 by, what'd you say, 32 by 64?
This is 32 by
That's a
64,
huge
so
playground.
that's a lot of
A
playground.
lot of playground. That's a $300,000 playground.
Right.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, you could probably cut that in half, slide it over.
Yeah.
What's the footprint of the current one we just put in?
Like 30 by 80, so almost the size of the
Okay.
The
pavilion. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Watch your
And that
kids.
was-
So that's a very good point. That's a
And
lot.
it's
That's-
more of a nature playground. They're gonna have little areas to play throughout the park.
Obviously, that's undefined. It's just.
Yeah, the playground in the park as a whole could be separated, differentiated elements at different points.
Be in the field where the butterfly gardens go.
Yeah, like one part could be there, another part could be elsewhere, yeah.
And I think a park should be there next to the pavilion, just
Yeah, that is a good.
having the pavilion next to a playground,
Shade.
shade, places for people to sit. That's the one
And
negative
also-
I've got about the new playground we put in is that there's no benches. And so I have a quote out now on some benches to put in there for people to sit. That's like the one thing we overlooked. Every other comment has been positive.
We just,
We got it.
we got a playground.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're gonna have benches
We're
soon.
gonna have benches soon. But that might be another place where people wanna put the memorial benches. Another option.
So if we're gonna have any, are we gonna have any nighttime lighting? Are we gonna have any street lights? None, okay.
Okay.
I immediately take offense at lighting, nothing but trouble. Nothing but trouble.
I wanna be able to lie on the ground and look up and see the stars.
And there's that too.
Can't do that at home, Bob?
Yeah, but
Are we done?
with my friends.
Do we have anything else for Rob?
I have a question for you. One of the comments was public restroom of some type or another. Have you talked about that, whether it could be a restroom building or, God forbid, porta potties, but seems like a facility like this probably should have some facilities.
Yeah, in my head, it all depends on the splash pad. If we go splash pad or water feature, I think you gotta have some type of public restroom where kids can change or parents can
Right.
change, all that.
Right,
If it's just gonna be a park, all the other parks in town just
You
have
don't
porta
have-
potties
yeah,
and.
porta potties, right.
We'll just add it to our bill for them and.
I do know from experience, back to Bodenham again, we helped them with a 3-compartment public restroom and it's been problematic for maintenance. People trashing it. Yeah, actually closed it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a maintenance headache, as nice as they are.
Yeah,
It's one of
Should
those
we
things, why can't we have nice things, you know?
Yeah.
Should we assume there might be restrooms somehow attached to the pavilion at some point?
I wouldn't put them right next to the pavilion, but I think porta potties off on a remote side,
I mean,
just on a
part of-
like a paved pad or a concrete pad. Couple porta potties that you then have a contract with somebody to clean them weekly.
We went
You probably
from,
do it for your ball fields, I'm sure.
we
Yeah.
went from bathrooms to just empty stalls. With empty stalls, no bathrooms for the changing area, and then porta potties for the bathroom.
Right.
It's not a bad idea.
I know it sounds terrible, but
We don't take the summer camp there anymore, but we used to take them over to Chicky and Rockland, and they had a porta potty there, and their bathhouse was completely shut down. I called their director and he came over and opened it up so we could change 50 kids quicker than one at a time, but they don't open it usually, so they.
Well, wedding
Because of
events,
problems.
catering, we don't care about having water available here or that kind of utilities?
For the pavilion?
Yeah.
I think you're gonna have to.
yeah.
Okay, so
Without
that's my
doubt.
question, but
Yeah.
that this plan included getting utilities down to the pavilion.
I think,
Whatever they
I would think that would be a good thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you're gonna go to the point where you expect to maybe have food trucks and things like that, you're gonna wanna have at least. Again, I hate to keep going back to Bodenham, but we're helping them. We put in some yard hydrants that you can hook some hoses onto. Excuse me. Just to have that option.
I'll dig up the plans for our packet, public restroom at Vigo County Park where we have neither water or sewer. And we ended up putting a 6-inch well, on site, but we still didn't have the ability to put in wastewater, on-site wastewater disposal. So we invested in a packet, including a holding tank. And Yeah, it's worked out pretty well. Everything's fiberglass and kind of vandal resistant, not proof.
It gets
I could track down from my successor what those plans look like.
You're right. We also work for the state of Maine Department of Conservation, Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and we put some what's called the privies. It's a vault privy. So you've seen the brown buildings on a vault. So it's strictly a toilet on a vault on a holding tank. Again, it's abused by the public too much, but probably not much more than a porta potty. But if you do a vault, then you either have to hire someone to do it, or it's gonna be a town maintenance. So generally, the porta potty is probably the easiest way to go. No initial investment.
They come and clean it every week.
Really, Muscata's having trouble, that
With the new
$1 million,
thing.
Bathroom.
well, I was gonna quote someone, but anyways. It's difficult.
It is.
It's who's gonna maintain it,
Mhm.
It's
you
too
know?
bad.
They
And
expect it to be.
it's a nice building. But
Yeah, we have full-time
Very expensive.
personnel at every one of our 4 parks.
Way more than.
You can't set up
Right.
cameras in them, I suppose.
No.
No, we can do that.
Yeah, it seems
I think
like
we
the
start
only place
getting
that
into
works
English.
is if you-
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, you have to have somebody there.
Like ferry terminals or whatever, you have to have a person.
You have to. But we went from, it just was a very basic 6 stall. Literally had shower curtains on it, somebody could change, no running water, it was
Yeah,
real
we
easy.
gotta do
And if
something.
you wanted to vandalize, there wasn't really much you could do except tear down the curtain.
Mm.
They were $1.25 or $1 at the dollar store.
For 6 of them.
Wonderful. What do you do?
Do you, is this just a ghost line? What is, this, I don't remember what this is. This rectangle or? Is this? Hey, what's that? That's not an indent. No, what is that?
I think those
Is
used
this
to be
like a-
loading docks.
Well, we did. Yeah, there's a contour there, it's not labeled. It's a different style.
Could be. Remember, Carl, is that all perfect? Is there an indent there?
No, I'm a little confused about that.
Yeah.
That doesn't match my memory.
Yeah, I don't, same here.
Hey, do you have any theory about what we do about that dosing chamber? It's elevated, surrounded by the northern white cedars. It's that little spot
there.
there. Any thoughts about that?
Should go away.
You should check with DEP.
That's a
on that.
question for DEP.
Yeah, I think that we ought to investigate that. It's such a
Right,
nasty
so-
looking thing.
Well, it's a wastewater pump station. so
Yeah,
it
it's the
is what it
wastewater
is, yeah.
discharge, yeah.
Right.
It fed the lagoon down below.
Oh, it did.
Maybe they'll just let us fill it in.
Yeah, just make it go away,
Yeah,
one way or another.
Mm.
It's just ugly.
Right.
ugly and dangerous.
Add that to my list.
Yeah, public works is security.
Yeah,
You
right.
can't
The cedars.
get into the- Yeah, another question.
Do we wanna send him a list of questions before he makes the call to the DEP and meets with them? So let's take some time. Everybody send their questions to Max and then Max will forward them on.
Yep,
to-
I made a list myself and you add to it, please.
Yeah,
And then I'll draft up an email, a letter to the DEP. Share it with at least Max and Julie, make sure we're all agreement before we ship it off.
Yep.
So, yeah,
When,
Yeah.
when would you like us to get those to him?
I think that'd be great if you can take the next week. And get that done.
What do you have right now? Just
right
so we're
now
not-
I have pavement removal is a question.
Yep.
Excavation for electrical, excavation for water supply, excavation for trees and or shade structures. Kind of similar, removing the pavement for the playground or build up on it. It's kind of a repetitive question.
Yeah.
Remove the lift station, question mark.
Or fill in. Yeah.
There's a lot. That's a lot.
Is there anything else I missed?
Well, there's a couple of buildings that are outside the,
Restricted.
I think those are going bye-bye, right? These funny little things that are.
Those are just concrete slabs.
Yeah, they can go, right?
Again, I guess that's another question I can ask.
I'm not sure anything can go.
Right.
but-
Well, I don't remember if it's outside of our designated line or not, I didn't bring that that form that we did with some original with them.
I think they're in a separate designated line, aren't they?
There was a question about whether more planting can be permitted or the road to increase the sound buffer.
Yes, thank you. I think you're gonna have your hands full, because it's a very challenging site, and we've got a lot of odd questions to make good use of this place. Do we have anything else for our engineer? Well, thank you very much. We're in your hands and very grateful. And
Thanks for having me.
we'll all have some sort of additional input that we'll get to Max, and he'll.
Yeah, if you get some more
Yeah.
thoughts, obviously get them to Max or Julie, it'll get to me. And I'll work on that.
Anyway, just cricket something, right? Historically, what have you seen from your experience regarding cover materials
Of slab, you
of,
mean?
of slab or? I mean,
To be honest with you, I have no experience in this type of thing. This is a very unique project. My experience is covering landfills with clay and loam and seeding them. We just finished one in Norway. We did yours a few years ago. Not many of those left. So I'm not gonna tell you I'm a playground expert. We helped towns develop basketball courts, baseball fields. We did Europe ball fields, Babe Ruth and Little League years
Yeah.
ago.
years ago.
And so we're municipal engineers. We get involved in a lot of things. Sometimes I feel like I know a lot. Sometimes I feel like I don't know anything. Because we're really jack of all trades. So
So if
Yeah.
it were to get recapped with the concrete slab, are we just talking like 2 inches to make us smooth? Because we've got lots
yeah,
of.
a few
stuff-
inches, yeah. We're not talking feet.
Yeah,
Again, we need, that slab is level, so we're gonna wanna create some drainage.
yeah.
You know, we helped the town of Norway, they got a grant from New Balance to do an outdoor court, which is very nice. Outdoor court, all painted. You still need some slope to it. It can't be a flat court like an indoor court would be. You have to have pitch.
And then what happens on the side profile? You've got 2 inches coming on top of your concrete. Are we worried about seams there? Does it have to get coated with?
Not yet, I'm not.
Not in my lifetime. But over time, that doesn't break.
Probably, whatever we do, we will cap over the concrete, so
To
there isn't an
prevent-
interface that's gonna get water in between.
Okay.
Like membrane of some sort of.
No,
Maybe a
you
stucco.
could just pave to the edges and water could
And then
just sheet off. But if we decide we want to capture it, then we could do, it's hard to capture water up there
Right.
because you can't install any catch basins or
Right.
anything. So it's really gonna have to be sheeted off into areas that
I think we
water your
just need to get
landscape
the
slopes.
DEP to approve what we want, and then,
Yeah.
like you said, that's a whole nother level
Yeah,
of design that we're getting in.
Yeah, those are
Right.
the weeds, and we're gonna be thick in them eventually.
Exactly.
That's-
Yeah.
Anybody else for our engineer?
Can you read these with us?
Okay,
Great, thank you.
yeah, if you need any other copies, let me know, but yeah, you can keep those.
Thank you, Rob. You're
All right.
always wonderful.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
We were just talking about the big project at the transfer station at a meeting prior to this.
Oh, you were?
That's why everybody was up front.
Thank you again, Rob. Pleasure to have you working for us.
Well, thanks, glad to be involved. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you. All right, count updates are next, and that would be Max on deck, and Julie, whatever you got for us.
So I guess my big town update is how excited we were. To go to the school and hang out. I did not get to do, Friday night with the
19.
19 towns, 19 stories. We're up to, like I said, 59 requests people have responded to the summary, and that was strictly through our handouts. We had about 45 prior to putting it on Facebook, so we'll re-up that on Facebook. I'm gonna put it on the back, hopefully, of our tax bill. So people could just scan and give their feedback.
Wonderful idea.
It's on website as well.
It's on, I don't know if I put, I think I linked it to the, yes, I think I did. It's been a long 2 weeks.
On that email Michael sent, there's a link.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have 18 responses for the names so far.
When
For
you
the
met with
park,
the kids, did you have suggestions? Was it a voting thing or were you asking?
for the names?
Yeah.
We're asking for for the names, anybody can.
Mhm.
And then whoever gives us the name, so far we have 18 responses from the names, then what's gonna happen is it's gonna go to the Historical Society and the Select Board. They're gonna narrow it down to 3 to 5.
Okay.
And then we're gonna go over to the school sometime the end of October and actually run an election. So
So
that they
Miller
can,
or-
yeah, it's Miller, so that we figured the little ones would be more fun than the big ones. But go over there so they can learn about,
Not the electoral college.
not be like, well, they can learn a little bit about local government and how it works and I think that would be exciting. And we've gotten some really good, really cool
Yeah.
names
Can you
so
tell
far.
us what some of them look like?
Sure, I can. So On the Way Park, Waldeboro Family Park, Five Mast Park, Sylvania Park, Bright Start Park, Hofstas Park, Lightship Park, River Park, Colonial Park and Recreation Area, Governor's Park, Dawnland, keep Sylvania in the name, which is just a suggestion.
No, I like
Right.
that park idea.
Friendship Road Family Raceway.
Whoa.
That was not me. And
I like
East Bank Park. So there's a couple there that I'm quite
Sure.
excited about,
East Bank.
but yeah, it was interesting. I can't say much because one of them is my grandson's.
Okay, so we'll,
Right.
we'll just keep that.
But,
That's cute.
but-
Very cute.
They were, I mean, kids are, and some of these have been from adults and I think a couple have been from kids, but I think once they get down to narrowing it down, that'll be a lot of fun for them.
I think you could get Miller School to put it in their newsletter.
Yeah, we're gonna do all those fun things and
That's great.
And what was really great was we had this idea here and then I called Julia Levenseller, but in the meantime, one of the teachers had then contacted me after who didn't realize we'd already talked to that I had already talked to Julia about doing something. Because they wanted to know if they could come up and visit us about elections. And I was like, well, this is what we're doing. So what we thought we would do is with like, especially with the older kids, like the 6th graders, is let them be essentially the workers who supervise the elections and then have to count
Oh my God.
the ballot
Balance.
and like teach them about that kind of stuff.
I
So,
wish I'd had an experience like that as a kid. That's wonderful.
well, I just
Oh.
think and it's so timely with everything that's going on in the world. So,
Are you gonna do ballots with the fill in the little circle?
yes.
Cool.
I want to try to make it look as much like what the real. I would love to use the machines, but it would be a $1,500 programming
Wow.
thing, and I don't want.
I had the 6th graders count them.
Yeah. It only went off a couple of times.
Never. Embarrassing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No problem. I'm glad
None of us have ever done
I'm
that.
glad I stalked Craig.
Yes, that was a good move. Thank you.
The only person who brought up a name for the park when I was there Friday night, for 19 towns on the street. Or somebody said, so you basically, nice fella, he said, so you're gonna name it after the river. I said, no, you're gonna name it. Here's the QR code. And I let it go. But I guess he didn't come up with the name Madomic Park or something like that. He's not yet.
We already have one. It's the one behind Bear Hill. Is that called Madonna?
Madomic River Park.
Is it?
Yeah.
River
Is it?
Park?
Yeah.
Yeah, Madomic River Park.
I think it's just River Park, maybe.
Maybe
There was a lot of
River Park.
suggestions of what not to name it too, like everything's Madonna.
Yeah.
How are we gonna, reach out to the people who are not tech savvy?
On the tax bills.
But you also said it's gonna have a QR code.
They
Yeah.
can fill out a form.
Okay. Cause I think that's important too. We don't want people to say, I don't know how to use that damn thing,
Mhm.
so we're gonna make.
I'm
it
not
touch.
taking Facebook though. I'm not gonna be responsible if people
No, no.
on
but-
Facebook, but.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
yeah.
but
But
if they
you
wanna
wanna make
come
sure
in, yeah.
All of our constituents have an opportunity, like old guys like Bob and myself.
Speak for yourself.
Bob's been QR coding for years now.
I do sort of resemble that remark of this person, because today I must have spent half an hour trying to change a password.
Well,
Oh, my gosh.
I mean,
It's
you
awful.
know, it just, because we're the oldest county in the country, for God's sakes.
Are you still planning a table on election day or something? too?
A table for, what we'd really like to do is have, everything for the, election. I would, naming the park, no, but the rest of it, the
right,
design
right.
stuff, yes, because I think the design's ongoing, and what I discovered was people, if they didn't know enough about it, and just so everybody's aware, nobody's like, oh, you haven't done anything, so I wouldn't be so upset or worried about people not thinking that the committee's not doing enough or hasn't moved, or that there's nothing going on. Like this committee seemed to be really worried about, are people gonna think we didn't do anything or we're not doing enough? I don't think people have that fear or concern at all. I think that's that's
Inferiority.
the inferiority, definitely.
Communication is
But
key for us.
people were thankful that we met them there,
Oh, absolutely.
because they are
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah.
And I just think it's important that we get feedback,
Yeah.
because we've all had, a lot of us have had kids, but we don't have any current kids.
Mm.
So, like, that I'm aware of. Well, Marcus, you do.
So, maybe you're gonna report on this, so is the abatement stuff all gonna happen on, what's the process?
abatement.
Yeah, what's the Hofstas
The Hofstas
status now?
I mean, that's something that still needs to just be done. We just need to actually clean out the asbestos, but it's a matter of how we're paying for that. Because it's about $20,000, give or take.
Yep.
And I do have a grant that can do it, but we'd have to demo the building, which I
Yeah, right.
feel is
Yeah.
the direction.
Well, I guess
if we
that's
don't
my,
have anything.
kind of my question is the Hofstas property still in play? Because I would really like to do an evocative sketch plan that sort of shows the trails in a kind of a interesting way, and it shows the whole property, not just the stuff. But,
I think
maybe,
it,
is it still in play?
I think it depends on what the select board decides, as far as what the offer on the table was from a benefactor, and what Max can procure as a grant.
I can't do anything for saving the building unless we have something to say that is very historic. I can easily get something to demo it, kind of like what I did with 80 Gray.
Right.
And I agree with Barbara, and I was gonna say it a bit earlier, but with everything that was listed but in the survey, I think we're focusing a lot on just this tiny little concrete pad when we have 50 acres. I mean, the nature play area, that's this massive thing. There's that
In the
1 acre.
trails that you
Yeah.
spent time figuring out. Yeah.
Trails, there's the 1 acre, there's a big acre in the middle of the whole area. We could put the playground there. Any nature-based things, if we need to go on a slope, the Hofstas house there, well, behind the Hofstas house, there's that sloped area. There's a lot of area. Doesn't all have to be crammed on here. I understand people wanting to be close to all the parking, but if we're also encouraging people to walk out and explore more of the park.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think that the reason behind this was, this is the most focal point right now.
Yeah.
And what people would like to see something happen.
Yeah, no, I'm saying more of
And we do have,
a phased approach. That's all I'm saying.
and we do have interest in a local organization co-locating on the site, so I think we have to be mindful of that too.
Right.
Is it at all in possible play that the building, whatever, 2 acres where the building was, would get sold separately and we would just keep the land to the water as part of the town?
I think we put that to bed
Yeah, I guess so.
a long time ago.
Yeah, I think when we did,
Is it again?
I think when we did the survey back in 22, people were very clear they didn't want to sell.
Okay.
And they didn't want to, I don't think they wanted to lease either. I'd have to look at that part
I
of the
think
survey.
part of that issue becomes that we and we're not gonna get favorable Part of the reason that the DEP supported the town getting it was because the town would maintain ownership of the property.
Okay,
Because
If something goes wrong, we will tell them.
okay.
Yeah, trustworthy.
we were a trustworthy
Yes.
partner.
And I think at the end of the day, the benefactors had hoped, and Michael's candid about this, he had hoped that between a nonprofit stepping forward or multiple nonprofits, together with an assemblage of town functions and values to operate out of the building, that there'd be a groundswell of support, and we're just not able, I don't detect that groundswell.
Mhm.
It hasn't emerged. And if there's something we're neglecting to do, we should be, somebody will tell us.
But I
It hasn't happened.
I think we missed an opportunity by just showing this like at the event.
Yeah.
rather
But we
than-
were clear about that.
Yeah,
That
But did
this
you
is
have
just
another-
one,
the whole property.
this was just one portion of it.
Yeah,
I like the idea, though, if you're willing to do it, just again, conceptual.
yeah.
A hiking trail
Totally,
here and a
totally
ADA
conceptual.
trail here, just adding it on and houses, butterfly, just again, options for people to think about.
Yeah.
So I'm just unclear on what the Hobson's House piece, because I feel like we made a recommendation, I think, way back when, the committee to possibly save it, and we looked into possible uses, it sort of is sat though, there's not, so is it just sort of sitting? I mean, how to move that forward, either to
Well,
demolition or
well,
keeping it?
part of our issue was, one, what are the costs?
Right.
We
Right.
determined what those were through an RFP process, over the
Yeah.
summer. Max did a lot of work with the vendors to figure it out. Now, what he's been tasked with from the select board is how do we pay for this now?
For
So-
which? Demolition?
For
Or
abatement.
just the abatement, yeah.
So that's where we're at, is how do we pay for the abatement?
No matter what we do, we have
Have
to
to
abate.
abate,
Right.
It has to be done.
No matter what.
no matter what we do.
And my thought has been, when the second RFP came in, that's when the benefactor stepped forward and said, I'll help fix up the building if the town's willing to work with us on this. And my position since then has always been, once we know how much it's going to cost to abate it, if there's some grounds to fix up the building, then we can look at that option. But if not, we're waiting at this point.
Yeah.
So
So,
we're still waiting for the number of the cost to abate.
No, it's
No,
only
you don't.
19.5. We have.
Yeah.
You said that, so that's.
abatement's
But it's
20,000.
how you pay for it. We don't
Yeah.
have we don't have a line item in the budget for Hobson's House abatement.
I
So-
said you had a grant to almost.
There's a grant to abate it, but it would result in demolishing the
Demolishing
property.
it.
Demolition.
I don't have a route to fix it unless we all just happen to find out that George Washington's had an Airbnb there or something.
So the contribution can't be, that can't be started with the contribution towards the houses.
The-
We can't
You mean
use
the
that as
benefactors
funding.
proposal?
Benefactors,
Yeah.
some of that couldn't. be-
Well.
Hmm.
So. If the benefactor wanted to donate that money to save the house,
Mhm.
you could use probably a portion of that money to abate it. But then where do you get the rest of the money to
Fix it up.
fix it
Mhm.
and maintain? Right.
Yeah, on
And
the
then-
good day, the benefactor says generous as they've been, it's only about a third of the cost of rehabilitating and adaptively using that building.
Right.
A good day.
I think it's fair to say that we've explored just about every option we have.
I have to, so the question is, how do we push a decision to?
Well,
I think it's just the select
Well,
board.
the decision's easy. The select board votes to accept the $20,000 offer for abatement and then get rid of the house. Yeah,
Right.
done.
Well, that's just me kickstarting a little process, which takes a couple months, but then I just apply for it.
I think that's where you are.
So that's where we're at.
All right. So the abatement and a new roof would keep it safe for 3 or 4
There's
years
no
for
roof in
fundraising.
this proposal. They're simply abating all the hazardous
Why would you do
material.
that if it's?
No, I mean, if you wanted to move forward with holding the house to preserve it, if you keep the water out, we abate it and we keep the water out, then we've gained 5 years to raise the rest of the money to rehabilitate the house. Or are you
But nobody's
saying?
defined the use yet either.
Yeah,
There's no excitement about that.
Okay,
Just
so
isn't-
that's.
It just
that's
isn't
it.
done.
Okay.
We won't drive in one way or
I'm not in
another.
the town, no feeling of it.
No.
Okay.
And I'm
That's
It's a
deeply,
lot
and I'm
of why are
deeply.
you even thinking about it?
There's a lot of, yeah, I mean, I still have people commenting that it's the new town office and it's like,
No.
we're building a new town office. I'm like, where did that come from?
I mean, I remember just
There is
kicking
a-
Marcus to the roof of the building because that's where the asbestos is, but
The only discussion we really had was if we're going to have a facility there, in the meantime, maybe that would be where Marcus could be, that.
I have a new home.
Yeah, but he has a new.
And I know I'm new, so this has probably been covered and already decided upon, but that house is well situated because like, if there were a YMCA there, you probably all thought of these things, but if it's adjacent to an incredible outdoor space. And if it was partnered with a space like for summer camp or where they had an indoor space when the weather didn't permit it, but then on the days that you could, you fling open the doors
The
and
problem is that the DEP will not allow a YMCA and children's activities
No,
indoors
daycare.
on that site.
indoors,
indoors.
because what is that?
Be-
It's just,
Part of the cup.
oh,
And when we were talking about the community center potentially being there, one of the things that people have wanted is childcare, and that's specifically one of the things they don't want on the site, even if it's indoor or outdoor.
DEP.
DEP.
is it dangerous?
It's just one of the standard things they always put into these brownfield sites or brownfield-like sites, rec sites. But like,
This is, a lot of this is boilerplate, but we can't question it because it comes from Olympus, you know, it's really out of our hands.
And it was done before the town accepted it.
Exactly.
No, I mean, we were given a fait accompli.
And believe me, I've railed against it too.
Everybody has railed against
There's
it.
so much common sense here that to have, but it's a done deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem is that every time somebody new comes,
we do have to explain
we
that.
have to go over this.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. It's just,
Recalibrate.
we just, we have a set of parameters that we have to follow, and yes, it would be great. But again, the problem is that we just can't have kids in a confined indoor space there.
I'd also just add on that even taking out the covenant for a second and taking out the potential of the community center on Depot Street over here. I think with the vision we've been talking about so far, it seems a bit out of place to now put a building on there when we are talking about an open air pavilion. We're talking about all these nature play areas that are trying to integrate the open space environment. To me, the building sign kind of just stands out of place now when we're talking about the whole property. I mean, that's just my 2 cents on
You
it.
see it as more an office and not really being part of.
I just seeing it being, it's just the sore thumb sticking out pretty much. Like we're talking about 99% of it being this environmental, eco-friendly type play area where you go out, it's just outdoor area. And then there's just the one building.
We've even talked about the idea of adaptive equipment being loaned out or rented out, or loaned out of that building. So you would have, you know, we would get REI or a LL Bean to fund a loan equipment, outdoor equipment loaning, cross-country skis, adaptive trail, lever-operated wheelchairs. You know, we've had these wonderful ideas, but just nothing seems to stick. And until and unless an entity came along, a nonprofit came along and wanted to significantly underwrite the effort, I just think we're on our own.
Yeah.
You can see it's a sore point because we love the place. We think it has great potential, but we can't move from this point. Getting the hazardous material abated seems to be a sort of a trigger to move on.
And I think too, it's anything, if we'd have to explain to the voters of where we're getting the other 2/3 to finish the project.
Instead of letting it languish
So
decades.
what was the number? So it gets abated and then it could be pulled down for X amount?
I think the lowest demolition bid, I think it was about closer to 60 plus the abatement, so 80,000 total at this point. Then
If
rehabilitation,
you go out to bid again,
we'd have to go out to bid
Yeah, we
again.
have to go to
Right.
bid again.
So when it's abated, then we'll see what the market is. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Those are old numbers that have to be replaced.
But we need to wait for the grant money to come in before we do anything.
I have to have this designated as if it's the same route we're doing with 80 Gray, I have to have, and I'm having the whole site designated as a slum and blight. That's the Hofstas house and the Sylvania site.
Where you get your money.
That's how I get my money.
Yep.
And
Huh.
once they say, yep, that's good, then one of their things is they have different categories and one of them can go towards just cleaning up slum and blights. I'm trying to think which town did it. I want to say Gorham, but probably not. They used it to create a park.
What's the section? Slum and blight related?
Slum and blight designation,
But for,
community development block grant.
okay. Yeah, CDBG.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I'm there constantly, so much that they have to start screening my phone calls.
Mhm.
It's him again.
Yep, pretty much.
Keep it up. All right, well, I'm glad you brought up the Hofstas because it's been lingering for a long time, and it's good that we all understand exactly what the choices are. And if the path forward includes successful grantsmanship and abatement, then we move it, then there's motion. And to put an obstacle behind you is to make good progress, even if it's sour.
Do we have to get the town vote to take it down? Or is it just the select board?
I think it's just a select board because it's not selling it or anything.
We're not.
I don't know.
Definitely worth the press.
The only reason we even did that with the 80 Gray was because originally they were keeping the building.
They were,
That was it. That was purely
Changing course, yes.
I mean, that's what they voted for. So
correct.
They
And
had to approve the opposite. action.
correct.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else?
And, community outreach, really, at this point, have to decide. The art walk, I think we've discussed that, unless there are any other comments about it. I think Michael's report is.
It would be great if we could have other volunteers sit in on some of these community outreach that we do. I know we'd like to do another one at the Waldo for this particular project.
Like you did before, that was great.
I'd be happy to help out.
But yeah, so any of these,
When?
and if you can think of any place we need to be,
Is there another artwork? Is there September?
It's October, I think October.
Because if we need people to sit at tables for.
yeah,
I'd be happy to do that.
because that would be great, because then you can hear what Michael and I heard.
First day of K2 soccer is Saturday and I have 60 kids signed up. for
So take
kindergarten,
some of our flyers.
First and second grade.
Good.
So October to art walk, and November, the voting day, and
Mhm.
did some of
Yeah, if you guys want to be at a table on voting day, that would be great, because that's 8 to 8, and I actually have duties I have to perform that day, so that would be wonderful if people want to take like
Take a shit.
2 or 3
sure.
hour shifts would be great.
There is art walk in September too, on the 27th. And another thing is, I think it's homecoming weekend this weekend.
And did I see something about some school open house days or something?
We did
Like,
that already.
That's the one that already happened. Okay.
Yeah, that, they have an open house the week before school starts.
So should we get in touch with you, Carl, if we just volunteer to sit at the table? Either on voting day or.
Voting day would be great if you could coordinate that 8 to 8.
Yeah,
Set up hours.
I'll do that. You correspond with me and
Okay.
we'll schedule that day. 'Cause
And that table would that table have to be outside after the polls?
No, it can be inside. We don't. It's just information for the town.
In a matter of good housekeeping, I will be away, so I won't be.
In
here.
all honesty, I'd probably set you out here in the hallway. To get people as they come in.
Listen, just correspond with me and we'll schedule it.
That way,
So you've got 2 of us who will do it.
Like 2 at a time. Or one at a time.
Yeah, well, it's more fun.
Yeah.
Do it when I get off this.
I don't know if I'll be at Walton Theater table, so. Say hi.
you're having a table?
Well, we did last year or 2 years, no, it was a June one, and it was great to have one there.
So you're doing one in November?
Well, I'm just mentioning this, not for that. Suggested. But I don't know.
As long, is it for voting for something?
Nope,
or just information.
Kind of survey kind of
If
thing.
it's information and that kind of stuff, you can be inside here and I'm not gonna make you sit outside in the cold.
Okay,
In the
be
rain.
in this room somewhere?
Well, no, I mean in the hallway, but
Okay, I'm just,
if you're actually asking for support or funding or something political, you have to be after the polls.
I see.
outside.
oh, interesting. Okay,
Sounds done that, yeah. Okay, very good.
Is there another meeting at 6?
There was the calendar said that there was something with the fire
Yeah,
department.
but they had to set up early. Oh, that must be over there.
Yeah,
They couldn't come in.
Well, in the interest of time, we do have Janet's timeline, which we amended a little bit, responded to the several comments as to wording and some particular comment to do with the Sanborn, the EOS site excavation work. And I think it's all been distributed to everyone. I would think that we might be in a position tonight to agree that this represents an accurate timeline and we adopt it for use at the public outreach.
One thing I'll just say that could probably suggest this, but maybe an add-on page that just lists committee members and acknowledges people that have helped along the way. I mean, I could pull something together.
well, let me back up a little bit. When I read it, it talks about a lot of organizations like, select board, the land trust, NEDEP, but it doesn't have many other than Gene Lawrence. And, it doesn't have many personal names on it, so my suggestion was actually to remove, I wish Michael was still here, but to remove Michael's name because, and just say, that the effort happened, because it just kind of weird to all of a sudden have one name, and there's been so many people involved in this
You're
project.
suggesting all or none.
Yeah, exactly.
None's better because then you don't forget anybody.
We
Exactly.
do,
But if,
always do.
and I was just gonna volunteer just all the past minutes and stuff and just pull together a list just so we have it, like the first committee, the second committee. And people that have contributed, like Gene Moore, in different
There's
ways.
so many people, it's kind of a nice thing to do, but anyway, I think it's great what Mike did and everything, but it's like, it's the only name, personal name mentioned, we don't want this project hanging.
Yeah,
on
Michael
one
Lane kind of
person.
got this whole thing
Yeah.
started.
Exactly.
Michael Lane got it started. I mean, that was back in the God,
Joe
15 years
Guanacci
ago.
was
Yeah,
huge.
Joe Guanacci was.
So
good.
there, but we don't, it doesn't have to be part of the timeline.
That's
I just
right.
feel like it'd be worth documenting just so at some point.
We have members of all, we have a in Falls of Wilbur, we have lists of each year's committee members.
You
Right,
do.
but this goes beyond committee members.
Yeah, if that wants to be memorialized someplace, somebody else would have to develop that.
Right.
I don't think Michael Lang was in a meeting since I've been here.
No,
We
no,
started
this
it.
was.
No, I know he did. I'm just saying.
No, no.
So
good
like, I
point.
wouldn't have even, there's probably other people other than Michael that I wouldn't even know
That's
had a
why,
part of it.
so I'll just do that. I mean, it
That'd be
could-
great.
What it can be used however we want to. But yeah, I can edit it and take people's name out. If you don't think, I'll just say committee member led a trip and.
Send that along and again, I'll convert it to a PDF.
Is
So
that
it's,
okay? I don't want to offend him.
I don't think you're gonna offend him. I just
Okay.
think that it's,
I'll explain it to him when I see him.
Yeah.
no, but I
Why?
think you're right. If you
Suggested.
either name them all or name,
Yeah, exactly.
I can
Well,
do that, I'll say.
with that, then there's no particular action except to await your making that addition of committee membership at the end. Way to do with that? That's what I thought I heard.
Can I take one or two of these home?
And we're running out of time. The town website, what's that about?
These-
Remind me.
They're pretty similar.
I saw it on there, but I didn't put it there.
I didn't put it there, did I?
we'll talk after the meeting.
Is that Rebecca?
I would.
I was gonna say, and I just want to go to supplies and limited, make a copy, or at least scan them. Or actually, yeah.
On what's being planned, because people don't necessarily want to look at the videos and try to blow up the plan on it. So people were particularly interested in whatever you were handing out at Art Walk and wanted to know how they could get that information. So
Oh,
the question is, what are you guys putting on the town website? So, because you're, part of
Thought
what
it
you were
was on
trying
there.
to do was educate,
Yeah,
right?
I
So
thought
what
it
is
was
out
on there. Okay. I'll look. I can
Okay.
look and make
Okay.
sure.
All right.
Good
Thank you.
point.
That, I mean, we did that whole survey and everything while I was on vacation, so it might not have made the website.
Okay.
I will check.
Trail updates, you'll be happy to know I got nothing. We expect next year will be our year to undertake integrating the trail, a path forward to the trail, and funding for the trail could be very different with recreational trail program and water conservation trust fund, if you all get right. The bond bill this November, tell anybody who cares to hear that the bond, which is on the November ballot for the state, will create a $50 million fund, which will be more comfortably accessible to municipalities, so outdoor heritage and other funding sources aren't so tightly competitive for this. So yes. With that said, I've got nothing present. Any new business?
And the mission statement.
The mission statement.
Oh,
It's getting better every
Yeah,
time I
sorry.
read one.
I took everybody's
that.
thoughts
Yeah.
and I threw them together and I
You
didn't
made
want,
magic.
I didn't want to take anybody off. So,
And I like the rediscovering suggestion Michael made in his email.
I do too.
yeah, that sounded good too.
Yeah.
I threw it out there so people would comment, but I never got a comment, except for Michael just the other day.
well, you got mine.
I mean, no, I did get yours.
I
So you
didn't
got
have
mine. I said you're done.
Except
It's
for-
good. Go away.
You're good, go away.
Go away.
All right, so
Carl, that just sounds so ugly.
That's what we say. That's what we say when we get things done. You're good. Now go away. The next
all right,
person.
so we want to change the last,
What was it?
The title, the bit,
actually, the
actually,
mission statement.
this
I love
part,
that you
you
have
want to
everything
just
in
put
mind. You're such a
rediscovering up
teacher.
here.
You make me so happy.
I'm still teaching, that's the problem.
And that's the Sylvania one that he's only been a part of for a few months. You should see his Waldeboro Day one that he's been a part of for 30 years.
All right, so we're gonna make that change.
But did you say that? I lost track.
You lost track. Janet, what,
Oh, just in the quote up top,
quote.
the mission statement, actually,
it was,
nurturing Waldeboro's future, rediscovering its past.
Yeah.
As opposed to honoring its past. That was the suggestion, which I thought was good.
yeah, I do too.
Like we're all in it together.
Is that it? With that, are we able to move to adopt this as the mission and vision statement? So that it can be used for our outreach as we continue.
It has the title Sylvania
I'll have
Redevelopment
to,
Committee, which is fine.
call you back in a
That's all
meeting.
this, right?
Is that your charge to the committee was to?
It's already got that title
I'll
on
be
it.
out in
Yeah.
a few minutes.
But that was the select board's charge, was it not, to create a redevelopment committee following the? That we are called to be redeveloped.
Yes, that's right.
That-
Exactly right.
okay.
Yeah.
Want to be sure.
Those signs were very cool, the new park signs. Those things that, what's her name did, the graphic designer person? That NEWPARK on the table.
Yeah.
Cindy Butler.
Oh, yeah, the new.
Oh, Michael showed up with those.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
they're very cool, but he says Cindy Butler.
Oh,
did it.
okay. He was, yeah, he came and they had this was great. They had the little fall tablecloth set up and he's like, it won't match with my sign. So he took the tablecloth. I wouldn't have even thought of that. I was like, the tablecloth looks great. It clashed.
Is that you need a motion?
Is there a motion to adopt the mission statement with the amended reference to rediscovering its past?
I second the motion.
Is there a motion?
Let's approve it.
You
Submit
move
a
it.
motion to approve it and with that change, with that amendment.
Barbara has moved.
Now is there a second?
I said that.
And a second, all those in favor? Right. Abstaining,
I didn't know I was a voting member.
is she not?
Yes. You're not
Okay.
official, you're official.
Oh,
I
okay,
didn't know that.
cool.
You're great.
You're on.
All right,
Yeah. Very nice.
She had her.
maybe,
Yeah.
Yes,
you have your interview?
yeah.
was it when I was here? And I
Select
didn't
board?
really realize it.
She has been to, you have to go.
It wasn't a
You
formal,
appointed her.
you came to a meeting.
Yes.
And the
Oh,
consensus was that because you came and you contributed important things to that
Oh, so
movie,
that,
that meeting, we did not need to interview you.
okay.
Oh, good.
There you go.
It was
Well, last ago,
unnecessary.
I thought that you had the select board appointed you, so I don't know, I mean.
It did.
But you need to see Pam about signing your oath.
Okay,
and I'll send you a copy of the environmental covenant, just so you know what's in it, if you haven't seen.
okay, thank you.
That's why I was like,
I can send you all the technical documents. I'll be happy. to.
Okay.
Okay,
I have them all.
Great.
And I want to thank Jim because he just launched this thing 2 months ago about a vision
and we
statement.
got it done.
And there it is.
There.
It's very thorough, and it was the input by an entire committee, a subcommittee, which is a great way to do business. And the committee at large, and it's a done thing,
didn't
and
take
now
a
you
year.
Good job, Jim. Now take a hike.
Thank God I got my boots on.
The next meeting is,
I know what that meant.
You know, now they all know.
October 7th, I think.
You would know.
Wait,
oh, yeah, the
Oh,
end stuff.
sorry.
We have an update.
But yeah, they gave me 3 dates for their presentation.
Oh.
And so I figured I'd throw them out and see what for people. It'll be this Thursday at 4 o'clock, next Tuesday at 2 o'clock, or next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. The options they gave.
Which presentation are we talking?
The end stock, our creative play.
the nature
contract
play.
from-
Yeah.
from Canada, yeah. Is this
Thursday,
a
but-
Zoom or in person?
Zoom.
Zoom,
Zoom, okay.
Yeah, I can't do Thursday either, so Tuesday or Wednesday.
here
next week?
Wednesday next week,
17th or 19th
And what
17th or 18th.
or 18th.
I prefer later.
Wednesday's 3, Tuesday's 2.
But carry on without me. I'm not available anytime next
Is it
week.
something that can be taped or?
I don't know, we can ask. And
Yeah, it would be on Zoom, so we could record it.
Yeah,
but-
recording should be easy.
Okay,
I can do the 17th.
if it were in the morning, I could do Thursday.
What time on Tuesday?
2 p.m.
2 p.m.
Yeah,
What time on Thursday? What is it?
4 or something.
I'll be out of it.
Or I can ask them for more dates, but this was the second time
I would say so far in the survey, people really like the idea of a nature adventure playground more so than a standard.
there are features that Stock has that could be considered for that, for sure. I actually saw a Stock playground in person. I've only ever seen them online, and I saw it last month, and I was blown away.
In Colorado?
Yes,
Oh.
I was blown away. And I have so many images I could show you all. I don't know the best way to share them.
That would be nice, because I didn't think
Could
they
you
did a
put
really
up
good
on
job of
Google?
showing at the meeting we were at, what they could actually do. It was more like, this is,
Yeah, they asked us a lot about our project and not so much what they could do for us.
Yeah, well, they sent that whole packet. Did it?
Yes.
And we all have that, right?
yeah,
There was a whole
that
folder.
day, I thought they'd have more pictures of, not conceptual ones, but ones they had actually done.
Right, and that was they sent
Right.
us a folder. I think they're all in there, and you can also see them on their website, but I also have photos.
Of the Colorado?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
that-
think that would be cool.
Just send
Yeah.
an email that has all the photos would be
Yeah.
appreciated. It could be a Google Drive or
Yeah,
anything.
you could share. it.
Yeah.
Add the splash pad ones.
The Google folder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so much more than a splash pad.
Yeah, oh, is it the
It's,
same place?
yeah,
Okay.
it's incredible. It's giant boulders that step down, and then at the bottom, there's like 2 inches of water that children just play in.
Mhm.
But older children go up the boulders, and there's a water source, and it was pure joy. Like, any community that had this, I think, would be falling all over themselves. It would be just the pride and joy of, it's incredible.
Well, we have the elevation.
I know, I was thinking about that. They also had an incredible pavilion that was indoor, outdoor. Part of it was covered, but then there was also a big patio out front. That if the weather is nice, you don't need to be under. It was both. And so, so many of the things that you've been talking about today were reflected in that design that I just saw.
People were excited. It was just nice to have.
So
this.
can anyone go to?
Yeah, 17th, 18th.
I could only do Wednesday. Wednesday.
Wednesday I could do, or you could pick a new date.
It doesn't sound like there's gonna be anybody really.
Let's
Available.
find some new dates.
New dates?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna email them out though, because I'm not gonna wait till October.
no,
Why don't we pick some dates?
Yeah,
and
right
give them
now,
to
so
them?
you
Okay.
can offer dates to them.
Oh, that's better.
How about the 25th, Wednesday?
I have a rec committee meeting in here that night.
That night,
That
we'd
night,
be
but we can
doing
do it
this.
before, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
that's
4:30.
4 o'clock, 4:30?
Yep, 4 p.m.
And I am not available that day, but I know all there's
You know.
like, yeah.
4 p.m. Wednesday, how's that, on the 25th, how does that sound for everyone else?
Works for me.
We have to talk to the fire department, they're usually in here before our rec committee meetings, but. Paul's pretty flexible.
So this would be something we come here and watch on the
This is
screen.
Zoom.
Okay.
Let's get a second date going.
Yeah.
Yes, they can't.
October 7th at 4:30 p.m.
That's before our next.
That's during our next meeting.
During our next
Yeah.
meeting. Is that worth doing though? Maybe we don't have a ton on our agenda. but you-
Yeah, I think by that point, we're mostly just going over the surveys and the table links again.
That's a
So
wonderful idea.
we might just
Yeah,
do that.
let's do that.
October 7th?
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, so I have the 25th, the 7th,
27th, great.
27th.
no, September,
Okay.
October.
I mean, sorry,
The 7th of
October
October.
7th, 7 o'clock?
Wait, what?
What time?
October 7th, we're talking.
Yeah.
October 7th.
4:30.
4:30 during the meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, our meeting would be that.
It's a wonderful idea.
And we can talk.
Should we do a third one?
yeah, probably, yeah.
21st at 4:30?
Saturday?
No. it should be
October.
2 weeks
Oh,
later
October-
on Monday.
October 21st?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I was thinking September.
Okay.
10/21 at 4:30.
So priority is the 7th.
Yeah, I'll ask about the 7th first, and if that's a no, I'll say September 25th and then October 21st. And if they say no, I'll get dates from them and
Right.
I'll email them out.
Oh, she's sorry.
Yeah, I tried to get them on I think I tried to get them to this meeting or the last meeting we had, and it didn't work for them. I don't know what they're doing on Mondays, but it might not work. But I'll try.
There's so many images on their website of past projects. But just a few of each one, but I have about 50 of the Westminster one, including videos of me sliding down their slides.
Isn't that part of a city, town, or?
Yeah.
City.
Westminster Nature Park, I think it's called.
What was the slide made of?
It looked like concrete. So it wasn't hot and it was built into the hill, so you can't fall off of it,
Like Ferguson,
like,
the very dense mortar with an armature. and you can
yes.
do this.
They can make it
No,
really
that one had
slick.
no water.
Yeah.
So what did you
No water.
Nothing. It was,
On your
it
butt?
was polished.
Yeah.
Right.
Like floors.
It was,
Laura would be.
yeah. And it was, talk about adventure. It was high. So it had a thrill feature to it, but you can't fall off of it. You can't get hurt. But you know. Yeah, these features are incredible. So if it's, I mean, I could put them into a Google Drive or even a PowerPoint that people could click through the slides on.
That'd be great.
Yeah, or I could also do a half an hour of just a photo gallery of that. Plus I have many images of bicycle parks as well.
Maybe we should pay some attention, one of our meetings.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to, because that way it would be interact instead of just getting a bunch of photos. I've been to all these places.
Yeah.
And then I could, when questions come up, how it actually worked, we could just talk about them.
The thing that would be useful about that is we could posy certain pictures that we can think of that might fit for us and like keep them in a folder, just as like, share ideas
Yeah.
quickly with people.
And even use some, I don't know if you want to use some tabling events too, of images of possibilities. To get people thinking of all the different things like this was part, we both saw a video this week.
I'm gonna share a video with all you guys that's just amazing. Anyway, you'll see it. I've got stuff to do along in here, like with your kids. Well, I have to do it too soon.